Okay, so Be'ezras Hashem, we are continuing with our weekly shirim on the Ramchal's Adir BaMarom commentary on the Ijuraba, in the hopes of opening up the pockets of Geula, opening up the pockets of the Teva, of the cave, of the Ir Miklat, of all of these places of, in case of emergency, break glass, the technology of the Zohar HaKadosh, the emergence of Bina into Malchus, so that even though we're not holding by the place that we want to wake ourselves up to, by talking about that place, by yearning towards that place, by awakening ourselves towards the reality of our desire to reach that place, we also find our way into that place. And this is what the Ramchal is being masbir to us, the introduction of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai to the Ijur Rabbah, which was ultimately about the conditions of the world not meeting where they needed to be. And as a result, there was a diminution of revelation. And as a result, there was concealment and there was falling and there was all sorts of difficult experiences. And the time arises for a person to awaken themselves up out of the feelings of inability and to be the individual to reveal Pnimiyas HaTorah when nobody else is doing it in the way that it needs to be done in the secret of Eis Lasos LaHashem Hifru Sarasecha. And the way that this was done, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai v'Chavrayev would wander out of the structured orientation that they had from the homes of their lives, from the Bate Midrashos of their lives, moving away from the academy orientation of learning that's so expressed in Torah Sheba'al Peh. And it was a movement, a shift towards the outside nature of things, towards a wandering outside of civilization into the place of nighttime, the dreamscape, wandering, walking, talking, uncovering depths of secret within the ordinary. This shift in the landscape of where Pnimiyas HaTorah takes shape as opposed to where Niglos HaTorah takes shape is not only expressive of the evocative nature of Pnimiyas HaTorah, that it calls our mind towards the outside, towards the chaos, towards the alignment with that which is bigger than ourselves rather than the domestication of being at home, but it also is the very derech, and it's the very way, and it's the very mechanism in which the unfolding light of Gan Eden and the air of Gan Eden is going to be revealed. Meaning to say that going out from the house onto the road is not simply reflective of the mood oriented within the Zohar HaKadosh, but it is in fact the mechanism that awakens the light of the Zohar HaKadosh, that the novenad, the wandering out, as the Ramak points out in Sefer HaGerishin, when him and the Chavraya Kadisha would wander away and they would walk, and it was specifically in the walking that they would uncover the depths of secret, not necessarily secrets in terms of the content of the secret, but a secret within the secret that can't be expressed based on the external reading of Sefer Gerishin or these processes of wandering out. But hidden within the wandering out was ultimately the very mechanism needed to reveal the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, just as Moshe Rabbeinu had to run out of Mitzrayim and escape towards Yisro in order to bring the Torah back down. And the way that Rabbi Shimon v'Chavrayev did this was they would wander on their path and they would be miyachid yichudim. They would contemplate the names of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and what those names represent and what those names carry. And with their steady and focused contemplation by way of purity and holiness, they would come to awaken within their own minds the reflection of the ideas that they were learning about. So by way of thinking, it awakens a certain awareness, and through the yichudim, through the contemplation of the names by way of spooky action at a distance, it becomes a segula to draw down the hasaga, to draw down the grasp of what those names represent. Because the radical secret of the names of Hakadosh Baruch Hu Kavyachol are that, in spite of the fact that they don't represent the essence of Hakadosh Baruch Hu, nevertheless they reveal the essence of Hakadosh Baruch Hu. And in spite of the fact that we're engaging with something non-essential, which is ultimately the names of Hakadosh Baruch Hu, which are obviously not essential in their nature, because the only thing that's fundamentally essential is Hakadosh Baruch Hu. Yes, we have the Shem HaEtzem, which is the radical secret of a name being essential, but generally speaking, the names and the permutations and the yichudim that a person is engaged in to try and awaken spiritual vitality and a spiritual feeling in accordance with the generation of the idea within the mind of the individual themselves, to create the vessels by way of contemplating the letters and to allow those letters to become the very beginning of the grasp, which means to say that by contemplating the letters themselves, I'm already touching the beginning of grasp. And therefore, when I'm touching the beginning of grasp, I have the ability to climb up the ladder of that particular area of grasp, and I can go to the tippy top of that grasp. And it all starts by holding on to the osios. The osios themselves are the thing that pull us out, as the tzaddikim point us out, the avanim, the even masu abonim haisel pina, that in the beginning it feels difficult to contemplate letters or to visualize letters because we don't feel we're contemplating or we don't feel we're visualizing. But in the end of the day, as long as a person is aware that we don't know what we're doing and we're just trying in the end of the day, and we're not claiming to be fundamentally authentic in our attempt to do what the tzaddik tzaddikim did or to do what the tzaddikim do, as long as that is the prerequisite towards entry into the act of yichudim, then the contemplation of the letters themselves become the framework in which the radical secret of something inessential, meaning the name, becomes a receptacle to draw down something essential, which is light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is the secret of the Yichudim Kamoischa, that Baal Shem Tov asked Mashiach, when are you going to arrive? Emasai Kasimar, Kish when the words of Torah are expressed out, meaning to say the quantity and the quality of the information being taught is going to expand outwards beyond the frequency in which it typically expresses itself. And the second answer given is when people are able to perform unifications like you do. The unifications of the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh is the unifications of the Osios, the belief that when I start with Malchus, when I start with the lowest part of experience, within the very lowest part of experience is contained the germ cell of the loftiest expressions of experience. And even if I never grow farther than the letters themselves, nevertheless, I've experienced everything, as we see on Shvi Shal Pesach, that the Baal Shem Tov lost all of his moichin, and he ultimately came back to the secret of the Aleph Bais, which contained all of the moichin. That's the secret of the Baal Shem Tov, to teach us the Aleph Bais, to reorient ourselves towards the letters, so that the letters become the building blocks upon which we can open up frequencies in our mind of connectivity to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And it's real because the letters are real. The shapes of the letters are real. The engravings of the letters are real. The markings of the letters as they engrave their expression of the tzimtzum upon reality, like the writing that takes place on a page, that's real. That's irreducibly real. And as long as we're connecting to the dio, to the ink of the letters, which is really the letters of yud, because every letter is just a composition of many yuds, when a person attaches their mind to that, so then their machshava becomes something real, and these yichudim have the ability to take us out of the stuckness and to open ourselves up to expansivity. The expansivity that's opened up through the yichudim is not necessarily an externalized one. Like the Zohar HaKadosh, it's the teva that operates within the flood itself. It doesn't undo the flood, it doesn't negate the flood, but rather it illuminates from within the flood itself. The flood is still raging on the outside. When Rashbi and his Chavrayev, when the tzaddikim and their chaverim would go out to wander in their own minds, in their own territories, and to try and spark that to and fro, Ratza V'Shov, Gullus and Geula, Nov and Nad process that awakens the Hisayrus of Pnimius HaTorah, they would go out and they would contemplate something called the Yichud Hagan. The Yichud Hagan was the contemplation of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's names, as we began to see, that allows one to create an opening within reality, which A, becomes a place of protection from the Sitra Achra and concealment that abides on the external nature of reality. And number two, it enables us to create the mechanisms to draw down the air of Gan Eden into our minds, to draw Avira de Gan Eden into the mind, and so that we can once again live like we lived in Gan Eden and perform the unifications that need to be performed without the fear or the concern of what is going to happen if I engage with it on an external level. The Ramchal deliberately said he was going to mix up the way that this yichud was revealed, because when it comes to actual practice of yichudim, a person has to ask their teacher, a person has to identify within themselves what the motivation is and what the desire is. Everybody has permission. Everybody is granted the possibility of doing it. But it works very well if a person wants to try, when they connect themselves to their rebbeim, when they base themselves on the spiritual directive of the tzaddikim in the books, or the tzaddikim who are alive, who give them insight as to how to work through it. The yichudim are something very significant and also something very simple, to the degree that the Arizal would give yichudim to individuals for tikkunim on their chatayim. If there was someone who was struggling with a particular behavior, the contemplation of particular names of HaKadosh Baruch Hu was meant to awaken a certain frequency in which the person can come to grasp the secret of their own particular tshuva. In addition, each and every person is their own yichud. The Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh says that each person has to find a yichud within their name, meaning to say the extension of my life from the beginning, middle, and end. After 120, each person comes with their own yichud, the yichud of Hashem that was niskala through the particularized vessels that compose their name, which composes the framework of their experience. And so we started off with the first instantiation of this yichud, of the contemplation of Adnus 3 times, and the Milui, which becomes Tara, and then the drawing down of the Shem Ab, which is Yud Vav Dalet, Hey Yud Vav Yud Vav, and Hey Vav 3 times to be Mashlim and to be Megala, the sod of opening up Gan Eden. And now, following what he said he would do, the Ramchal is going to interrupt the Yichud to ensure that we don't get too stuck in the notion that we know what we're talking about, and to remind us that there's a concealment that abides within each and every ounce of revelation. That doesn't deny the value of the revelation. It just reminds us that we must always hold within one of our eyes that is looking at revelation the secret of concealment, just as we must hold with one of our eyes that's looking at concealment the secret of revelation. And it's always a mixed product of both experiences, and that's what the Ramchal is is going to Be'ezras Hashem bring us into right now in the continuation of the Yichud Hagan. And so with all that in mind, we're going to go into the words of the Ramchal himself, into the words of the Ramchal describing this deviation away from the Yichud in order to teach us about the fundamental approach to Yichud itself. Daf Samech in the Machon Aramchal edition. Ve'efarish lecha ata mamar gadol nimsa b'tikunei Zohar Kadosh. And I'm going to teach you now, I'm going to explain a big paragraph, a big statement that's in the Tikunei Zohar Kadosh. V'hu amuk amuk ein moitze kavnaso. And in truth, it's a depth of depths. It's the secret of secrets, and there's no other place really that describes it as such. And the Makor is in Tikunei Zohar Chadash, Daf Kuf Yud Beis Amud Beis. And the lashon that the Ramchal quotes from this Tikunei Zohar is as follows: V'tasem ba'asayeled, in describing Yocheved's placement of Moshe Rabbeinu in the river to protect him from the certain destruction at the hands of Paro and his men. V'tasem besof al sasai or, and he was placed at the edge of the river, at the edge of the river. So what the Tikkun Zohar says is that besof da oraisa, where was Moshe Rabbeinu buried? Where was he placed? He was placed at the end of the Torah, at the edge of the Torah. Begin lakasale begalusa, in order so that he should be protected, and that he should protect in the times of exile. Da'aleh itmar, because when it comes to the neshama of Moshe Rabbeinu, Pasuk says, "Kol ben hayalud hayore tashlichuhu," that any son that is born should be tossed into the river, should be thrown into the river. Di'ihu nuhura da'iraisa di'ihu or. Zok the Tikkun Zohar Chadash, that what is the Ya'oira, what is the river? It's the light, the illumination of the Torah, which is the light. And that's where the ben has to be thrown. Tashlichuhu, he should be thrown. B'chol habas, but the daughters. The ihi ner, which is the secret of the ner, which is the body. And the Tikkun Zohar continues. Ubahai ben hayulad haya'oira be tashlichuhu. And with this secret of throwing the sun into the Nile River, it will become the secret of Vahamaskilim Yaziru Kezoira Harakia, that the illuminated ones will shine like the brilliance of the sky. Be'emes usod amuk ma'oid ma'oid, says the Ramchal, and in truth, this whole conversation is a very, very deep thing. Hudavar asher dabarti lecha adheina me'avir hagan eden, and in truth, it's fundamentally rooted in what we've been discussing until now, which is the secret of drawing down the air of Gan Eden, or ascending up to the air of Gan Eden in order to draw it down. And this reality that we're speaking about of opening up the pockets of Gan Eden and drawing down the air, this took shape in the Dor Hadeya, which is why they were referred to as the door of Das, which is what our generation is as well, a return of that, as the Arizal already said. As well as Anshe Yerushalayim, Gam Yerushalayim Acharkach, even after Dor Hadeya, in Yerushalayim afterwards, there was the same ha'ara. And in truth, the Dor Hadeya and the illumination and the Riboy Das of Yerushalayim, of Rabasi B'deos, all is emergent from the revelation of this air of Gan Eden in the place of Eretz Yisrael, in the place of Yerushalayim. So we're going to see what the Tikkun Zohar Chadash seems to imply is that this notion of throwing the sun into the water, which was the decree of Paro, because he understood that it was specifically the Ben, the male child, who was going to bring about the redemption from Mitzrayim in the secret of the revelation of knowledge. And therefore Paro devised the plan that all of the masculine sons would be killed by being thrown into the river, and ultimately the daughters would take shape. And this was ultimately the beginning of the downfall of Paro. And what the Tikkun Zohar Chadash is pointing out is that this whole process is ultimately also a process of our relationship with Sodas HaTorah. Because this Sof of the Yaor is also the Sof of the Torah, and that's where Moshe has to be buried and hidden. And ultimately, that being thrown is going to be transformed into the illumination that comes about afterwards. And we've spoken about this. Zok the Heilige Ramchal. V'soid zehu haruach shel Mashiach. The Ruach of Gan Eden, this process of throwing the Ben into the Nile River and it being buried there, all of this is the awakening of the Ruach of Mashiach, the incoming air of Mashiach, the Avira of Gan Eden, the Ruach HaPeinu Mashiach Hashem, the Avira of Eretz Yisrael that's Machkim. Shene'emar boi me'arba ruchos boi ruach. Pasuk in Yecheskel says that the Ruach of Mashiach Tzidkenu, will come about by way of the four corners of existence. the four sides of it. Ruach Chachma v'Bina, it's Chachma, it's Bina. Hanizkar b'Pasuk u'Mufurish l'Kaman be'inyan ha'chutma da'arach anpin ayin sham. As we're going to see later on, when it comes to the nose of Arach Anpin Kavyachol, which is the secret of the Nukva, the Pardashka that Rabbi Nachman describes in the second Torah about the Hiskalis of Mashiach ben David and Mashiach ben Yosef to be Mevatel, the Klip of Yishmael and Esav. And we'll see there how it's the orientation of Mashiach Tzidkenu by way of the Hiskalis of the Chachma and the Bina. But that's not for now. V'tavin sham heitav, and a person will understand clearly over there. Eich zeh haruach ba mamish meganed, and this ruach of the nukva of the pardashka of the nose itself of Arach Anpin Kavyachol, of the parts of Zoh within Keser. Ultimately, that's the secret of the ruach of Mashiach, which is also the secret of the ruach of Gan Eden that is being drawn down. Because shu pnimius ha'olam ki yadua, the ruach of Gan Eden, is ultimately not something separate from this world. The ruach that comes from Gan Eden is the Pnimius Ha'olam Ki Yadua, that the Pnimius Ha'olam is Gan Eden, meaning that we're still in Gan Eden on an interior level. It's not a shift in place, nor is it a shift in territory. It's a shift in the externalization and the halbasha and the process of engarbment that covers over the essential Nukuda Hapnimi. But that doesn't take away the fact that all of the levushim and all of the garments are still covering over that innermost Nakuda Hapanimi. If we're looking at things from a hierarchical perspective in the element of Oyrech, then that which is above, and that which is below, and Gan Eden is Gan Eden, and this world is this world. But from the perspective of Oivi, from the depth perspective, where we see all of the worlds engarbing one another, surrounding the central pillar that represents the Nukuda Hapnimius of all things. So then every level is engarbing the essence. It's just the layers of engarbment that are ultimately the differentiation between the levels. But ultimately, if I'm engarbing something and I'm touching upon the innermost point of it, it doesn't matter how distant I am, I'm still considered the garments of that innermost point. And what the Ramchal is pointing out is that Gan Eden, in spite of the fact that we have to operate according to the Orech perspective, obviously as a Havamina, which is that Gan Eden is above and it's not here. From the Panimi perspective, we come to a place of realizing that the Panimius of this world, the Panimius of each and every moment, is also the Ruach of Gan Eden. V'lulei hadavar aruch ma'oid hayisi mar lecha hetiv ze hadavar. And says Rabbeinu Haramchal, if it would not take me so much time, I would show you this thing. I would show you it. Hayiti mar lecha hetiv ze hadavar. Eich Gan Eden hu pnimius ha'olam hazeh. How Gan Eden itself is the pnimius of olam hazeh. This is an idea that Rabbeinu Haramchal is ultimately going to reveal at the heart of the Idra, at the heart of Adir BaMarom, and what he's been building up to all along, and what we're trying to take away from it as well. That Eich Gan Eden hu pnimius ha'olam hazeh. Umisham huva Adam Harishon b'Rishona, and that's where Adam Harishon was brought. He was brought to the Pnimius Adavarim. Ela shaloi amad bo, but Adam Harishon wasn't able to maintain, and he wasn't meant to maintain his status there. Umisham ba'a ha'ashpa'a lo'olam hazeh keneshama ha'machaya es haguf. And as a result of having to leave the territory of the mind, which was Gan Eden, we descend down into the body, which is this world outside of Gan Eden, and that's where Adam Harishon descends down into. And then the air of Gan Eden is going to act like a neshama that gives life to the guf. That we're mamshich, the nahar hayotze mi'eden, and the element of the tvuna, which is the neshama that gives life to the body. We're not going to deviate too far along the path, because ultimately this is not the main point that we're trying to bring out here. Obviously it is, because otherwise it wouldn't have been a tangent. Every word of the Sefer is Ruach HaKodesh, and the way that it's written is also Ruach HaKodesh. Mamela, the deviations are there to teach us something fundamental, that even prior to getting to the main point, which is uncovering the innermost point of Pnimius Olam Hazeh, the Pnimius of Malchus, and bringing it back up to Reshad Lo Yada, and the secret of Ani V'Ayin B'Vasachas, and uncovering Eich Gan Eden Hu Pnimius Olam Hazeh, even though we're not yet at the center point, nevertheless, at the derech towards the center point, at the beginning of the book, we're also able to intuit a quintessential drop and a secretion of the depth of this book to taste the secret of what's going to arrive when we get to the core of the book. That ultimately it's Haruach B'Mamish B'Gan Eden Pnimius Olam Hayadua, Ich Gan Eden Hu Pnimius Olam Hazeh. And this is the secret of the Ruach of Mashiach. That if I had the time, says Ramchal, I would explain it. But we don't need to descend down into the particularities of this sugya yet. Acha emesu. But in truth, says Rabbeinu Haramchal, Shezeh davar haro'i leMoshe b'seid Mashiach. Moshe Rabbeinu was meant to be Mashiach. How do we know? Because Moshe Rabbeinu is going to be an expression within Mashiach himself. Moshe Rabbeinu is Mashahayu Hushiyeh, and the Ruach of Mashiach is going to be Mislabish within Moshe, and Moshe is going to be Mislabish within the Ruach of Mashiach, and it's going to be the emergence of Moshe Rabbeinu into Eretz Yisrael, as the Mittler Rebbe, the Heilige Mittler Rebbe, Schusio Ganalenu, whose yahrzeit it is today, writes explicitly in Torah's Chaim and Parshas Bashalach about Min Hamayim Mishisihu, and how Moshe Rabbeinu is higher than Mashiach on a certain level, even though Mashiach is also higher than Moshe on a certain level, is the Rebbe Shlita, as explained fundamentally in the BaMarom in Yam HaChachma Taf Shin Ayin Tes. But this Nakuda of Moshe and Mashiach on the yard side of the Mittler Rebbe is Mamish Hashgacha. V'acha emes hu shezeh hadavar ro'i leMoshe b'seid Mashiach. The secret of Moshe, and at that time in Mitzrayim, we should have been able to arrive directly in Gan Eden, and it would have been the Tikkun Hayidua, and that was the Gilui and the Geula of Mitzrayim, which is a fundamental stage in the final redemption, in spite of the fact that the final redemption will look back on the original state of the redemption as just a Heicha Timsa to the final destination of the Geula of Mashiach. Like we saw in the Zohar Kadosh yesterday, is that there's three Goalim for the three Geulas that we're going to need. There's the Goel Moshe, there's the Goel Mordechai, and there's the Goel Mashiach, which is the three Gamim, the Gam Charvona Zachrolatov, the secret of Gam Kielech, and the secret of Gemlasu Tovalora, and the secret of Gamzu Latova, and all of the Gams that come to be Marbe, the Gilui of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's the secret of Moshe coming to the place of Mashiach, and Mashiach being the Gilui of the Das of Moshe, and the secret of the Torah of Atikas Tima'a. And the way that's done is through the Talmidim Ha'amitim of Moshe Rabbeinu, which are the Yeshuos in our generation, and the Yeshuos throughout the generations, and all of the Tzadikim Amitim who become the Talmud of Moshe Rabbeinu to be Megala as the Anshe Mashiach, as we're going to see. Ki Yadu Hashem Moshe Hu HaMashiach. How do we know that Moshe is going to be the element of Mashiach? Because it's Ad Ki Yavo Shilo, and Shilo is the gematria of Moshe, and Ad Ki Yavo Shilo is the secret of the arrival of Mashiach. Eretz Yisrael, and in Eretz Yisrael, where Rashbi the Chaveirav were walking, and where Moshe Rabbeinu so desperately wanted to enter into, in the secret of Gan Eden in this world. Eretz Yisrael hayahis pashtus niftach min haGan Eden el Yerushalayim. There were gates open. There were gates open uniquely in Eretz Yisrael because the Mabul never even came here, so there was more of a hisgalus. In Chutz La'aretz, there's the recognition that Oisaseinu lo re'inu, even though the Mabul came along and destroyed everything, nevertheless the Keshet, as the Ramchal points out, reminded us of the irreducible bond to the traces of holiness that rest within us. But in the Bechina of Eretz Yisrael, which is Pnimius Ha'ilamos, and therefore it feels most like Chitzonius Ha'ilamos, that in Eretz Yisrael there was no Mabul, and it's a different Targosha. It's not that even though I don't have access, I still actually own the levels of spirituality that I'm yearning towards. In Eretz Yisrael, in the secret of Yerushalayim, it's mamish, there's a psicha of Gan Eden. It's a different Indian entirely. Eretz Yisrael niftach min haGan Eden el Yerushalayim. There was an opening descending down to the Etzem Haluz of the Bria, which is the Koitel Ma'aravi, which is the secret of Mibein Shnei Akruvim, where the Tzaddik Emes gather and where the Tzaddik Emes is buried. It's ultimately there that the Hiskalis of the Kodesh HaGadashim is going to take place. Yoter, and in the future it's going to be even more. Od Yoter Tov, Maleh Haaretz Deis Hashem, because the Gilui of Mashiach Tzidkenu on the level of Mitzrayim, on the level of Moshe, we know is the Das in a Keva. It's only the first stage of Das, but it's not the fundamental expression of Das, which is Das the Duchra, which is the secret of the Yichud Ilah being Mislabish within the Yichud Tata, and the Yichud Tata being Megala more and more of the Yichud Ilah, and the secret of Aniva Ayin Bavasachas, which is the secret of Moshe Rabbeinu entering into Eretz Yisrael, and it's going to be the secret of Maleh Haaretz Deis Hashem. Mashiach Adayin Loba, because Mashiach Tzidkenu has still not arrived. Ulchin Tikun Zeh Lo Nimsa Adayin B'Shleimu. So the Tikun of the Hamshacha Yeshera of these Oros down Lamata into a Kli of Eretz Yisrael, which is the emergence of Moshe Rabbeinu into Eretz Yisrael in its fullness, that has not yet taken place. And so what we have is the preparation of the lights, but they're yet to be actualized in a real way. Achkivan Shecharef Habayis. But because the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, it's true that Mashiach Tzidkenu and the Neshama of Mashiach has emerged through the secret of Pnimius HaTorah and the secret of Nishmas Mashiach that's waiting in the Heichal of Kansipor and the secret of Gan Eden waiting to emerge. Emesu shenoilan Mashiach ki yadua. V'husoid ki yeled yulad lanu, as the pasuk in Yeshaya says, a child has been born. Ach gazar HaKadosh Baruch Hu sheyeh oimed la'atzmei b'Gan Eden. HaKadosh Baruch Hu decreed that the neshama of Mashiach Tzidkenu, the ruach of Mashiach, the hisgalus of Pnimius HaTorah, of Soidus HaTorah, of the Torah of Mashiach Tzidkenu, of B'hait Safri Afkin Megalusa, it rests hidden within the chambers of Gan Eden, where it can't be destroyed because its kli is not ready for it yet, but it's still there. V'hispashtus hazeh yeh nistam. And what happened as a result of the destruction of the temple and the concealment of the process is that this revelation of that which rests hidden within the very pneumius of Gan Eden, which is the very pneumius of this world, it's mustar b'til chola hastaros, underneath the Evan Hashasiya, which is the Haligat Simsum of it all. So it's specifically there that the deepest revelation is going to take place, but now it's hidden. And we don't experience it well. We don't have Ruach HaKodesh yet. We don't have the Nevuah process yet. We haven't revealed the innermost point of Mashiach and Moshe within each and every one of us because it's concealed. And it's also Seinu Lo Ra'inu. But rather, when this light is prepared, but it's not yet ready to be revealed fully, just like it happened in the time of Mitzrayim when the light of Moshe was kindled, but there was no Kli Ra'i to receive the light of Moshe. Over there, the Eitzah is to hide it. What do you do with that light? You have to hide that light in a way that it's hidden so that it can still continue to exist by way of its hiddenness. Rather than being Megala the light too early, rather than trying to bring about a redemption prior to its actual moment, we have to hide that light. The Eitzah is to be mushla hayaora, to hide the light, to throw the light into the river. Besoid oiraya shazachiti lamala, in the secret of the malach aleph vav reish yud hey, which we discussed above, is the shliach and the guardian of the gates of Gan Eden, which is the secret of the avir and the or yud and taking the yud out of the or. Hayaora is throwing the yud into the or to conceal it, where the hiding itself, where the kibui of the oros is in and of itself the expression of the light. V'nikra tashlichuhu. But why is it referred to as throwing the light that has been kindled, the light of Mashiach, which was kindled in the depths of Mitzrayim, in the secret of Nishmas Moshe Rabbeinu and Hiskalas Pnimius Torah, on the level of Chitzonius Hadas? What does it mean, tashlichu, that should be thrown in? What means is that the light that this shoresh has been megala is not sharing that light. It's incapable of sharing the light. The light is there in Gan Eden, but nevertheless it's contained because there has been an enclosure within Gan Eden to ensure that that light not descend down because the kalim are not roi for it. That's what it means that it's thrown into the Yeor. It's hidden within that secret place in Gan Eden where the lights are waiting to be revealed. All of the lights are already prepared, as all of the tzaddikim have already told us. The ikr is to be mezachich the kalim and to polish the buttons and to ensure that we create the receptacles and the kelim shonim in each and every one of aspects of each and every one of our lives to create the kelim to be megala, this light of Mashiach Tzidkenu, which is waiting at the ready in the secret chamber of Gan Eden, which rests at the innermost point of this world. V'gam ki b'chol dor efshar sheyigalu Yisrael. And even though in each and every generation it's shaykh for Klal Yisrael to have a geula, and all of the generations where the Geula didn't finalize itself, each and every moment of preparation for the Geula and anticipation of the Geula are going to be revealed to have been moments of Geula in and of themselves. Im kol zeh, nevertheless, even though it's roi to emerge at any moment, kol haben hayalud hayaoira tashlichuhu. In that time, the kalim were not there, and therefore the eitzah hakoileles was all of the ben that is emergent, all of the masculine children, which is the secret of the light of Moshe Rabbeinu and the das of Moshe, and the secret of the hisayrus of Mashiach Tzidkenu through Pnimius HaTorah. The eitzah is throw it into the or, hide the light, conceal the light within the avir, where the yud is stuck within the or, as opposed to the or yud, where I take the yud out of the or and I allow it to reveal itself. In those times, concealment is the eitzah, hiding it. This is why the Zohar Kadosh was not revealed until it was revealed. This is why Pnimius HaTorah has to undergo all of the traumatic relationship with it in order for it to properly be revealed, because all of these things are talui b'inyanim elyonim and dakim minadakim that only the tzadikei emes have a hasaga of, and only the yechidei hadoros have a hasaga of what's actually going on. But for us, when we look at the grand history and the narrative structure in which Pnimius HaTorah has been revealed, we have to see in every ounce of that biographical process and the historical process as kalim to understand the depth of the material that can only be revealed by way of this kind of concealing and revealing, concealing and revealing, and ultimately this emergence of a whispering. The Gamki b'chol dor efshar sheyigal Yisrael, and even though each and every generation it's worthy of having a Mashiach, im kol zeh, nevertheless, kol haben hayalid hayora tashlichuhu. Each and every eitzah over here was to throw it into the Nile. Ki misham yatsa Mashiach miklal b'chol kochesenu kvar, because it's from that place that the redemption is going to emerge with all of its strength. The redemption is already present. It's already ready to be revealed, except now it has to wait in an incubation period of sorts prior to its actual revelation. V'zeh shakasov, and this is what the Tikkun Zohar says, Begin the bay asid la'afka Mashiach. The reason Moshe Rabbeinu that you have to be thrown into the soif da'iraisa, into the hidden place, into that place that's buried mul pa'or, into that hidden place that appears to be silly and meaningless on the outside. That's where you have to be buried because it's specifically from there. Begin the bay asid la'afke Mashiach. It's from that place that redemption is going to arrive. The Eino Omer Ba. It doesn't mean that it's going to be the Bas. It doesn't mean that it's going to be something else that's going to come to take shape. But rather, Bay means you yourself, the source of light that is Moshe Rabbeinu, is going to be the Giloy of the Geula Hashlem La'asid. Sha'az hi kai al Bas Tichyon. If it said Ba, the implication would have been on the fact that, okay, even though the Ben is going to be thrown into the river, the Bas, the element of the Ner mitzvah of Torah, or the Ner mitzvah is going to maintain existence. That's not what it says over here. It says Bay. Why does it say Bay? Because it's Bay Asid La'afka Meshia. It's you. Dahinu Bay, you, Ba'oise Hanuhura Shuhu Yaor. The light that is hidden within the river, which is that secret of the Yud that's hidden in the Or, ultimately is going to be the very site in which the Yud cultivates the capacity to emerge out of the Or with a newfound power because it has conquered the light of the Or itself. That's where the redemption is going to come from. The element of Moshe that's buried mul base Pa'or, Keneged, the deepest darkness imaginable. V'soid zeh ki HaKadosh Baruch Hu gazer laha'alim ha'or shel ha'Torah shu pnimius hasoidos. What HaKadosh Baruch Hu decreed was that the pnimius hasoidos, the innermost point of pnimius haTorah, which is the kutza diyud of Torah Chasidus, and what the Baal Shem Tov came to be megala through the light of all of the tzaddikim who came before him and all of the tzaddikim who come afterwards, that gilui of the pnimius hasoidos is razin derazin, but as the Ramchal understood it, it's the same nekuda as is being revealed over here. V'soid ki HaKadosh Baruch Hu gaver laha'alim ha'or shel ha'Torah shu pnimius hasoidos. There was a geniza on the innermost point of Pnimius HaTorah. And when the Baal Shem Tov came to reveal the innermost point of Torah, he came to reveal the innermost point of Torah within each and every tzaddik who came to reveal all of the innermost points of Torah, because there's a way to learn the Ramchal prior to the revelation of the Baal Shem Tov. There's a way to learn the Ramchal after the revelation of the Baal Shem Tov. Prior to the revelation of the Baal Shem Tov, the words of the Ramchal were always there, containing the depths upon depths upon depths upon depths, but they were inaccessible to us. The light of the Baal Shem Tov was mezachich, the kli of the individual and of reality, so that we can then come to look at the words of the tzaddikim, whether it be the Gra or the Ramchal or the Rashash, and we can come to uncover the inherent depth that has always already been there, except accessibility to it was hidden from us because we didn't have the eyes of the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh. But when we have the eyes of the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh, we can come to any sefer imaginable, especially the tzaddikim ha'amitim, the Gra and the Ramchal and Talmidei Ramchal and Talmidei Gra, and we can come to uncover the depths upon depths, which has always been there. It's not that the tzaddikim didn't know what they were writing, it's that we were unable to reveal from within the depths of these writings the Nehura Shabei. But the Soidos, the Pnimius HaSoidos were hidden. And that's the secret of Or Raz. This light that is hidden is the secret of Raz. Raz, Reish Zion, is the gematria of Or. Or and Raz represent the two stages of the congealment and the refinement, the congealment and the refinement of the secret that transitions into the Or that it's coming to convey, and the Or that can't be fully conveyed other than by way of the externalized garment of the secret itself. This processing between the Or and the Raz is a result of that delicate balance between concealment and revelation for the sake of concealment, and concealment for the sake of revelation. At that time, all that Klal Yisrael were going to be worthy of receiving was the Pshat HaTorah, the Torah of Moshe Rabbeinu, not the Torah of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. The Torah of Moshe Rabbeinu, which Avada contains within itself the depths of all depths of all depths, and the Pshat is the Iker Gilui of the Sod, as the Gra points out. But we have to first come to the Pshat, then the Sod, then come back to the Pshat to realize that the Pshat is the depth of the Sod. But you can't run directly to the Pshat with the awareness of the Pshat is the depth of the Sod, because you have to go through Sod first, and then return back to the Pshita Sadavarim, which is the Gilui of the Aniva Ayin B'toich Atzmam and Bevasachas, beside Ner Mitzvah. And the secret of what was being revealed was called Habas Tichyun. Klal Yisrael were going to receive the Torah of the body. They were going to receive the Torah of the Taryag Mitzvahs. They were going to receive Torah's Moshe, but they were not going to receive the illumination of the Ben, the Das Apnimius of Moshe Rabbeinu. That was going to be concealed, hidden away in Gan Eden, in the secret of Mashiach Tzidkenu. Shekola Eisa Kuba Pekidun Araisa. What we were going to be engaging with, first and foremost, was just the action orientation. Avada, the deepest place, but externally speaking, the Pekudin da Araisa, without understanding the Das of why we're doing the Pekudin da Araisa, and why we can't understand why we get to do the Pekudin da Araisa, then the Pekudin da Araisa grow externalized for some people. And ultimately, the process is from Pshat to Sod and then back to Pshat. And in that time, when it wasn't time to reveal the depths of Pnimius of Moshe Rabbeinu, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu decreed that the Pnimius HaTorah should be concealed so that it could be revealed in a further way. So the main focus was the Pikud and the Araisa. Ach Melech HaMashiach Yamid B'Soid HaYaor. But the secret of the Hiskalis of Mashiach is hidden within the Yaor, is hidden within that concealed place where the light goes to form sort of a force field around itself, like the Zohar Kadosh, which is cultivated in the cave, or like the Tevas Noach, which is revealed in the heart of the flood, or like Gan Eden, which is at the center of this world, or the Ir Miklat, which is the place of comfort for the individual, or the Teva with the window that is created, drawing down the Moichin of Bina into Malchus. It's all prepared in the realm of Malchus, in the realm of Bina. It's all there. The Melech HaMashiach stands waiting to be revealed. Because it's specifically from within the Yaor, from within the process of concealment, that the actual revelation of redemption is going to come forth. Without the prior concealment in the Yaor, this is not just a bug in the system that, oh, Hashem wanted to reveal everything, but oh no, there's Paro and I have to hide Moshe now, and it's only going to be revealed at a future state. God forbid, Rahmana Litzlan Mehai Daisa. This is the very way in which HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted to create the Welt, that there should be a Chashucha and a Basar Nehura, that there should be a darkening and a concealing and then a light. Not because the light is only going to be more intense after the concealment. That's true also, but because the concealment is also light, and the concealment is another way of grasping light that cannot be grasped other than by way of concealment itself. The Choshech and the Or are both revelations of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And so Hakadosh Baruch Hu wanted to be mashrish the neshama of Moshe Rabbeinu, the pnimius hadas of pnimius haTorah and the pnimius hasodos needed to be hidden within the Yaor so that it could come out from that place as well, armed with the strength of it. Moshe Rabbeinu descends down in order to experience the cultivation of that concealment place and the ibor and the unika of it all, and the being buried mul beis pa'or, so that that cultivation can bring about the redemption itself. V'az lo haya b'Yisrael misha haya at that time, there was no tzaddik yesod olam other than Moshe Rabbeinu, who had uncovered the light of Pnimius HaTorah and the light of the Torah yet. And therefore, there needed to be this continued process. What the Ramchal is saying over here is that even though Moshe was in the generation, Moshe A had not yet been born, and when he was born, the generation was not yet roi for the hisgalus of the das of Moshe, meaning a generation needs a tzaddik like Moshe in order to merit the hisgalus of Mashiach Tzidkenu. So how could it be that the generation of Moshe itself wasn't meritorious of that hisgalus? Because the beginning, the tzaddik of the beginning, as Rabbi Nachman says, that the reason everything is so difficult because I'm cutting down forests for you. Moshe Rabbeinu is paving the path, and that das of Moshe is what continues to give strength to Klal Yisrael and the secret of Moshe Shapir Ka'amart. But the pnimius of Moshe is only going to be niskala besoif within the hisgalus of Mashiach Tzidkenu, and therefore it was almost as if Moshe Rabbeinu wasn't strong enough to a certain degree to bring about the hiskalus of the shlemus of Moshe. This is the tashash koicho, the loss of strength that Moshe Rabbeinu experienced when he saw that Rabbi Akiva knows something that theoretically he doesn't know, because it implies that Moshe Rabbeinu wasn't able to, but the Hamshacha is going to do it. But what Rabbi Akiva says is that no, halacha l'Moshe misinai, the continuity of our ability starts with you, Moshe Rabbeinu. You're the one who gives us strength to continue moving forward. And the secret of tzaddik ba'amunaso yichya, and the secret of Moshe emes v'saraso in this, and the secret of Vayaminu b'Hashemu b'Moshe avdo, and the secret of Moshe as the pnimius of the das of each and every yid in Klal Yisrael, because each and every yid is a nekuda in the Torah, and they have the full Torah of Torah's Moshe. And it wasn't time yet. It's similar. I had a story that this was very similar to, but okay, I'm forgetting it now. They had to go through the miruk and the godal atoikef of the chavalim kamutz kalamala. Sasoid b'Yisrael him nitzulin b'chavala. The sod could not be revealed in any other way other than concealment, because ultimately the goal of sod and panemius is to free us from the concealment and to cure the difficulty and to cure the suffering. And ultimately, in order for it to come about, it had to go through the crucible of that process so that it could cultivate the strength of that process, so that it can properly be mamtik all of the dinim of that process itself. Tashlichuhu. And now we'll be able to return back to the words of the Tikkunei Zohar. V'tzarich lefaresh ma. Why are we throwing it in? What does it mean to be thrown into the Nile River? The fact that the goal is to throw the ben into the river, it's not to get rid of the hiskalus of the das of Mashiach. It's to allow it to be incubated within a place of concealment. That yes, for the Sitra Achra, for Paro HaRasha, it's going to appear that it's being destroyed, but ultimately it's the Ace Rala Adam Laralo that when negativity thinks that it's winning is ultimately going to be the full hiskalus of Panemius. And so the Sitra Achra has to assume that Moshe Rabbeinu is concealed. This is what happened with Haman HaRasha, that he looked at the fact that Moshe Rabbeinu died in Adar, and he says, there's a concealment of the tzaddik, and Memela, that's why we're able to destroy the Yidden. But what he didn't know is that the concealment of the tzaddik is ultimately a furthering of the revelation of the tzaddik. And Moshe Rabbeinu was also born in Adar, and that's what he couldn't understand. He couldn't understand the secret of the Hilula, of the concealment for the sake of revelation, of the fact that the Zohar Kadosh had to dafka be buried and revealed from within the cave itself, just as Moshe Rabbeinu had to be buried and revealed from within the depths of the Nile River itself. And that's why it's the Nile River itself, that Ye'oira, that concealment of the Or and the Das of Moshe, which is going to be the eventual revelation of the fullness of redemption. Hine matzinu berazal. We find in the words of Chazal, Keshem shekabalti schar al hadrisha, kach akabel schar al ar prisha. Just as we receive reward for the desire to extend outwards, so too we will receive reward on our willingness to move inwards within ourselves, to refrain from expression. This is the secret of the tikkun that comes about by way of the hiding of Pnimiyas HaTorah. That was the first tikkun. That tikkun had to be that Pnimiyas HaTorah is going to have to be covered over. It's going to have a hastara on it. It's going to have many, many levels of hastara on it prior to it being able to reveal its potent light, when all of that hastara is transformed into a place of furthering the Gilui. And therefore, this is the whole process, that there's a schar that is received for refraining from sharing, just as there is a schar that's received for sharing. Ube'emes, and in truth, kamoshu tikkun lehisasek b'devarim hamutarim, just as there is a mitzvah to engage in that which is revealed in front of us, kachu tikkun lefrosh min ha'asurim, so too we see in avodas Hashem there's also a benefit that comes about, an active benefit that comes about from refraining from being stuck in concealment and refraining from particular behavior. Al kain, therefore, lefi ha'gezera hazayitz nitztavu ha'ya'ira tashlichuhu, the gezera of Mitzrayim, of the Meitzar Yam, was that the ben, the or of Mashiach, the hiskalus ha'pnimiyas hadas, within the Maisa mitzvahs themselves, should be tossed into the river and it should be concealed. Hainu lifresh mimenu, that we shouldn't be oisik in it. There was a time in Klal Yisrael where it was not meant to be mitasik with, and if Pnimiyas HaTorah is the fundamental drive at the heart of all things, then how could it be that the world have functioned without Pnimiyas HaTorah for so long, in spite of the fact that the germ cell of Pnimiyas HaTorah is always revealed? What the Ramchal is being megala is that the process in which Pnimiyas HaTorah and Pnimiyas of anything is revealed contains within itself all of the stations of concealment that it undergoes in its emergent process, because without that it wouldn't be revealed. And therefore, there's never a time where Pnimiyas HaTorah, or the depth of the illumination and the vitality of the Eitz HaChaim, is being revealed. It's just whether it's being revealed in a revealed way, or if the revelation of it is taking shape by way of the concealment under which it is hidden and which is concealed. The fact that writings were found in Kvarim, and that they were found in strange places, and that they went through the various questions of who's author, who's this, who's that, all of the questions are only there to reveal more and more how the potency of the Pnimiyas Advarim can only be revealed from within a prior stage of concealment and questioning that leads us to a place of not knowing, but ultimately knowing that we don't know. And that's the secret of experiencing the descent into Gan Eden in this world. ובאמס כמו שהוא תיקן לסעסק בדברים המותרים, כך הוא תיקון לפרש מן האיסורים, ועל כן לפי הגזירה הזו נצטוו, היאורה תשליכו, היינו לפרש ממנו, פירוש לפרש מלימוד הסוד. To have a tmimus and a pshitas without going into the depths and then returning to the depth of pnimius and pshitas. Lahashlicho haya'ira, to throw it away into concealment, to let go of it. Shu began eden v'loy ba'olam hazeh. What did it mean to hide it in the Nile River? To allow that light to go back up to Gan Eden. That light of Mashiach, of pnimius HaTorah, is always there. It has to be hidden. And where is it hidden? It's hidden in that place of Gan Eden, which rests at the innermost point of existence. That's what it means, throw it into the Or, throw it into the Or Yud, throw it into the Avir of Gan Eden. V'teida everything we're saying here about the neshama of Moshe and Pnimiyas HaTorah is also the process in which Mashiach Tzidkenu is going to undergo the process. That because there's no place for it to be revealed just yet, so it waits in an incubation period, as the first Rashi says by Ruach Merachepes al Panei Hamayim, like the Yonah, which is Merachepes, it's like an incubator, which is a place of preparation towards growth, prior to growth, which is the allowance for the expansion. It's still where Mashiach Tzidkenu is contained formed within that place prior to revelation, and the secret of the Ruach of Gan Eden, and the Ruach of Mashiach, and the Ruach of Gan Eden that rests at the heart of all things, like we explained above. It's also going to be seen in the process of any expression of light that comes about from this light that is kindled and buried within the Yeor and buried within Gan Eden. Each and every person is a light bearer. Each and every person who has the courage in their heart to say, which is our reality, which is our generation, the generation of Purim, the generation of Eis Lasos La Hashem Heferu, which is the secret of Purim, Sarasecha, to transform the Torah into a place of Purim, which is what Rabbi Nachman says when he says Kol Chalos used to be from Pesach, which was the beginning of the process of Moshe Rabbeinu, but now everything is going to come about by way of Mordechai, because like we saw in the Zohar Kadosh, it starts with Moshe, the first Gam, which is the Geulas Moshe, and then it goes to Mordechai, which is Geulas Mordechai, which is the second Gam. So it used to be that all beginnings came from Pesach, which was the first redemption, which is Moshe. Now all of the beginnings begin from the redemption of Purim until we come about to the final redemption, which is the redemption of Mashiach Tzidkenu, which started with the second stage of revelation, which was the revelation of Mordechai HaTzadik and the Hiskalis of Yesod Abba Lamata by way of revealing through concealment itself. This is the secret of the process in which Sod is revealed, of drawing down pockets of air. On each and every one of these processes, we can lay claim to this concept of haya'oira tashlichuhu. It should be thrown into the river and be concealed in that place of incubation. V'hi inyan haprisha hazesha amarti. And this is what it meant to refrain for the sake of attachment. When prior to the time where it was worthy to be engaging in these matters, or it was time, so the non-engagement was ultimately the way of engaging. Shahaya lahem lefrosh min hasod. And it's not that there was no sod, it's just that sod was activated by way of refraining from accessing sod. V'zehaya nechshav letikun. And the non-engagement was seen as a rectification itself. Shebekoychei Mashiach atzmo yehi meir be'or hasod. Because now Mashiach Tzidkenu, who's been in this incubation process in Gan Eden, receiving all of the downloads, receiving all of the intensification and the gvuros and the miyamalel gvuros Hashem yashmiya kol tilaso, someone is going to be able to reveal the depths of the Torah of Shmiya, which is the Shema at the heart of the Talchazi, the beam of the Torah of the Eitz HaChaim at the heart of the Zohar Kadosh, to then go down into the Eitz Chaim to understand the system of the Arizal, and then go back up to see how each and every tree in Gan Eden, which is the Zohar Kadosh itself, is illuminative of the Eitz HaChaim in the heart of the Gan, to go from the Zohar into the Arizal, from the Arizal back to the Zohar Kadosh, as the Leshem Shvav HaChalom said, as the Balasulam said, and all of the Tzaddikim say, to reveal that Das of Mashiach. Kirak b'koyach hasoid yachol Mashiach lehiskalos, because it's only through the secret of Soid. I skipped a line. V'zaya nechshav letikun. The hiding of the tikkun was the hiding of the light was the tikkun. Shebekoychei Mashiach atzmu yemeir b'or hasod. Because now, instead of Moshe Rabbeinu revealing himself at that stage, it's going to be Mashiach who reveals himself by way of secret, through secret, as secret. Ach began Eden levad. But the revelation of Mashiach Tzidkenu as the secret is only taking place within Gan Eden prior to actualization, like we said. It's hiding in Gan Eden. Ki al kol panim sarach shehasoid yaseh shelo. The fact that it's not yet time for the pnimius hadavarim to be revealed by way of a redemptive state doesn't mean that the redemptive quality of Sod can't continue to force itself into reality and reveal itself in reality, because Sod takes shape and therefore it has to go somewhere, so it goes into Gan Eden, which is again the reason we have to open up the pockets of Gan Eden to go back to that hiding place of Sod and draw down the air of Panemius, so that we can then draw down the Eitzos Pshutos that emerge from the depth of the wisdom of all of our tzaddikim. Because it's only through Sod that Mashiach Tzidkenu is going to have the ability to reveal himself, and that Geula Shlema is going to come. But in that stage of incubation, in that stage of concealment prior to revelation, but yet still actively processing, is the secret of all of the light that is still held within the secret of Gan Eden. And in that time, in the time when Mashiach is going to arrive, take it from Yad Mamish, Yatsa Bismano, it's going to be through the intensification of the Sod that is going to push Mashiach Tzidkenu into the Gilui. Kikvar Yadata, we already know, Kama Mashlemes Avodas HaTzadikim Began Eden Al Yidei HaOlam Hazeh, that we know the Avoid of the Tzadikim in Gan Eden, the Mashiach Tzidkenu that rests in Gan Eden, it really only finds expression through the actions that we engage in down here in this world. And therefore, in spite of the fact that Geula Mamish has not arrived, Geula is there at the ready, and it's our job to create the vessels in order to draw it down. Ragzeh Haya, this is what it was. Ki Haya Yoitza Mashiach At that stage, there was no time for that light to be revealed. It still had to be hidden in Gan Eden. And there was going to be a deep level of concealment and suffering necessary. But the secret of the Bas, the secret of the mitzvah, the secret of Malchus, even though we don't have access to Bina, which is what the Ramchal starts off this entire Sefer with, Tichyun, that is going to continue to exist, that irreducible shape of the Taryag mitzvos, Im Lavan Garti v'Taryag mitzvah shamarti, in that place of concealment, in that place of Targum, for the sake of revealing Pnimius HaTorah, where Yaakov Avinu goes down and is hidden within the Luban HaElyon, which is the emergence of Pnimius HaTorah, Vakudim, Nekudim, and Berudim. It's the secret of the mitzvah and the Taryag mitzvos that remain, Lahamshech HaChayim Lamata B'Soida, and then it's only through the mitzvos that we're drawing down the vitality of all worlds, Lios HaKol Be'esak HaPshat, that everybody should be engaged by way of Pshat. And we're going to finish. There's just one more paragraph of this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful Inyan Amok Amok, as the Ramchal says. Acha Mialdos. But what was it with the Mialdos? What were the Mialdos trying to do? What were Shifra Puad, Bina and Malchus, Yerushalayim Shlomali, Yerushalayim Shlomata, Beta Ilah and Beta Tata? What were they going to do in the face of this Gezerah? That sod had to be hidden completely. Shehem mamish inyan machatz chakla. Shifra and Pua are like the machatz chakla. They were the ones who said, Eis lasos Hashem hifru sarasecha. Sod is not going to be revealed. Ben is going to be buried within Yeor. It's going to be hidden within Gan Eden. It has to be cut through. We have to create an opening. We have to ensure that this light comes down. It's just what the machatz chakla are doing, who are cutting through the threshing fields and ensuring that there are paths that are paved for those who desire to enter into the orchard. So the Charti Lamala says, the Ramchal, Shu Ketsiras Hatzemach Hanoilad, that it's those tzaddikim who go to cut through and collect all that has been growing and all that is being revealed. Hislab Shubiyira, they engarb themselves with fear, just like the Chavraya engarb themselves with all of the weapons and all of the shields, etc. And this point, when the nachash, when concealment is forcing something to be concealed because time is not yet ripe or time is not yet ready, in a place like that, when a person takes ownership over the revelation, they have to protect themselves from the nachash, from concealment, from the misappropriation, misutilization, and the falling into the desire, etc., etc. But with the strength, because they garb themselves in grandeur and they strengthen themselves with the kutra and the roimach and the chariv and the shakla v'tarya and the koyach of yira and ava and teferes, this is how they brought life back to the Eladim, and they allowed the illumination of that das of Mashiach to be revealed in a semblance of a way and not be fully hidden in Gan Eden. Ki kol oisem sha'oidim b'zeh atikun shel hasoid hamamshichim oisei lamata, because in truth, any person who stands in order to engage in this rectification of drawing down the lights of the secret from above down to below are going to be referred to Nikraim Yeladim Asher Ein Bahem Kol Mum, the secret of the Yeladim, these Kol Haben Tishlachu Ela Yaora, and these Yeladim that are being hidden, these sparks of redemption that are being hidden, there's no mum there, there's no concealment there. Every ounce of drawing down this light is an act of drawing out the redemption of Moshe Rabbeinu into the Kalim of Mashiach. Ki hem kulam oindim b'bechinas oise haruach shenikra haben hayulad, because each and every person who takes upon themselves to read the words of the tzaddikim, to try and understand the words of the tzaddikim, to try and live in accordance with knowing that the words of the tzaddikim exist, to know the names of the tzaddikim, to know the letters that the tzaddikim are working with, to know the concepts and the thought fields that their perspective opens up for us as Talmidim by way of learning their books. Any person whose heart is courageous enough to be one of the Machatz Techakla, when we say Eis Lasos Lashem Hifr Sarasecha, of course I'm unworthy. Of course I'm unworthy, but it's specifically because I'm fundamentally aware of the inherent unworthiness of it all that it's going to give a person the koyach to move forward and say, Adir, but what's going to help me feel worthy? I'm never going to do anything if I don't feel worthy. So Pnimius Torah is the only thing that can trick a person into thinking that they're worthy enough, even within their unworthiness. And that's the secret of uncovering the secret of the inherent worthiness that rests at the heart of each and everything, the light, the unfathomable light that rests at the core of every single neshama, where each and every neshama is revealed to be Yeladim Asher Ein Bahem Kol Mum, Ki Hem Kulam Oimdim Bechinas Oisa Haruach Shenikra Haben Hayulad, Vehem Atzmam Hamaskilim. This is the secret of Hamaskilim Yaziru Kazar Harakia. Those children that are sent down into the state of concealment, the mind that is sent down into a state of concealment prior to revelation, each and every one of us who searches for meaning in our lives, we in and of ourselves are the maskilim, shene'emar bahem, as the pasuk says from the Tikkun Zohar Chadash, v'maskilim yaziru kazayir harakia. These illuminated ones are going to shine like the brilliance of the sky. The Zohar HaRakia, the Rakia is Simsum. The Zohar of the Rakia is the revelation within Simsum itself. V'zeki levatel ha'gzeira efshar. The Mialdos could not undo the Gezerah that the light of Sod had to be hidden, which is why it wasn't fully revealed then, which is why Mashiach Tzidkenu goes to hide in the Heichel of Gan Eden. The Mialdos couldn't get rid of it all. but they could save Moshe. V'yefshar lahamshich HaMashiach lamata. It wasn't time yet for Mashiach Tzidkenu. V'acharav yimshach his pashtus hagan. And only afterwards we'll be able to draw down sefichim from the Gan, that place where the light of redemption awaits, hiding and dripping down through the tal of each and every day, the tal chayim that descends down through the mind of each and every individual in the secret of illuminating their heart and their bodies with the light of Sod, with the light of Pnimiyas HaTorah. And that's all in anticipation to what's going to happen. Elahim siyu derech achar. But what the Mialdos revealed and what we reveal for ourselves, even though the light of Mashiach Tzidkenu is not going to be revealed yet, what Rashbi the Chaveira have realized is that Hula aloy salagan. I can go up to the garden. I don't have to necessarily say the garden is not available. I can go up. And it doesn't mean in a spatial orientation, like we said, but it means to go inwards because Gan Eden is the Pnimius Hagan. La'alot is never to shift in my kind of actual location. It's to ascend to a higher level and to reveal a higher level within myself, to grow from within myself. When a person has the ability of opening up their minds and contemplating the names associated with the Yichud Hagan or hearing the words about it, or believing that such a thing exists, or believing that what the Ramchal was writing was ultimately fundamentally true because it was the Ramchal who was revealing it. It was the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu which was revealing itself through the Giloy of Rabbeinu HaRamchal, as it is with all of the Tzaddikim HaMitim and the Nevi'im and the Bali Ruach HaKodesh and the Tzaddikei Yesod Olam in each and every generation, that we can ascend up to the garden. That's the secret of Kol HaBen HaYulad, that each and every person who has shaykhs to Pnimiyas HaTorah has to be lehischazik bolios kulam nishlacham haya'ora. We have to get to a place where everybody gets thrown into the ora, where each and every person wants to uncover that light. And this is the tikkun that I've been describing to you, says Rabbeinu HaRamchal. That first and foremost, a person has to remove themselves, retreat away from civilization, go out into the wandering places of exile of the self, throw themselves upwards to the Yoira, like Kol Haben Hayulad Tishluchu Yoira. And it's specifically there, V'asham yikablu mashiro'i lahem v'achar kach yiviu lamata. And then the tzaddik, the neshama, the machshava, has the ability of ascending upwards through that process and drawing down what is reasonable for that neshama to draw down into the world in accordance with its das and in accordance with its lave. V'zeh shakosiv tashlichuhu. And this is what the pasuk says, throw them into the river. Why tashlichuhu? Because tashlichuhu is the same osios as taskiluhu, that we should transform the throwing into the river to reveal what was really happening, which was the source and the incubator of the illumination that takes place by way of the tzimtzum and the concealment, so that it can intensify itself and be revealed by way of a secret. It's not revealed yet, but it grows in its proportion until Mashiach Tzidkenu bursts through and actually arrives. Take it from me. It's the process of the cultivation of the Yesod and the reservoirs of the Yesod, which is the secret of Mashiach Tzidkenu, the Hiskalis of Yesod, the Abba, the secret of Moshe and Mordechai and Mashiach, and that's the secret of Maskilim Yasiru Kazar Harakia, where the hashlichu, where being thrown, is transformed suddenly into maskilu yazhiru kazayar harakia. Ki Mashiach nikrat tzaddik. Mashiach tzidkenu is a tzaddik, and every yid's a big tzaddik, and each person has a nekuda of Mashiach within themselves. And the tzaddikei yisoy the oilam and the tzaddikei emes are the shluchim from Mashiach. Besod tzaddik v'noisehu u'mitzchazchim koichay nikram tzaddikim. And anybody who finds strength or gives strength to the tzaddikim amitim is also referred to as a tzaddik. V'zeh shar laHashem tzaddikim yavaumo. This shar, this tara that's being opened up by the contemplation of the adnus, and the Shem Ab in the Miloi comes down to be mashlamit. This is the Shar LaHashem, and this is what the Tikkun Zohar Chadash means when it says Bahai ben Hayulad Hayoira Bei Tashlichu, that with this son who's thrown into the river, Sod, Pnimius HaTorah, Das of Mashiach, Das of Geula, is hidden within the river. It's specifically there that the Haskalah is going to come from. It's the secret of Sod Hashem Li'irei, of the hiddenness of the Sod, the fact that Sod is perpetually hidden even after everything is revealed, and that's going to be true ad infinitum even after the Hiskalis and Mashiach Tzidkenu, because lo yodea klum b'sof davar and kedushasi l'malam mikdushaseichem kitzrichim kulam liyos nechlalim b'koyach zeh shel haruach she'amarnu. Everybody needs to contain themselves within this spirit. V'uboi nishlachim sham, and all of us have to be thrown in there. B'soid davar, and the secret of this is the shame of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Yud Gimel Lamed Pei Zayin Kuf, which is the sixth line in Ana B'Koach, which corresponds to the Midah of Yesod, which is Yachid Ge'ei La'amecha Penei Zochri Kedushasecha. Zak the Zohar HaKadosh, that what does this actually mean? Yud Gimel Lamed Pei Zayin Kuf means Yegale Pidyon Zera Kadoshim. That Yagel is the Yegale that Hakadosh Baruch Hu should reveal the Pidyon Zera Kadoshim, which is the seed of the tzaddikim and the righteous ones who find themselves hidden within concealment, hidden within the Orah, and it should all ascend upwards to the secret of Yesod, which is the secret of Mashiach ben Yosef, to be mitchaber with Mashiach ben David, to be Megala the Das Apnimi of Moshe Rabbeinu, Be'ezras Hashem. And next week we'll continue with the next stage of the Yichud that the Ramchal brings down.